We are in the midst right now of transitioning to an architecture of, I'd say, a one world government control grid. Everybody needs to lean in. There is no way you can fight it.
What I can't get my head around is, who are the winners and losers?
Politics is gone. Like, if you're wasting time on politics, I think you're wasting vital energy. You need to build for yourself, and it starts with you and your family and your community. The whole monopoly board is being thrown up by, I believe, an agenda to build a police and surveillance state of programmable money, social credit scores, and artificial intelligence.
Have I talked to you about the golden pill?
No.
You've had every pill, you know how it works, you know how the system works, and you have a choice of blue pill, but you don't want to do it. You've understood through the red pill. You've had your depressing black pill moment. You've had your white pill. Now it's like the golden pill is like, this is reality, and I'm going to build my world in it.
So that's it. There is a global agenda to take us to the most centralized version of control grid that the world will ever see. And even if it happens, which I believe it will, even if it happens, it doesn't matter if you're sovereign.
Yeah, so the algorithms control a lot of this game, what you're doing. And actually, in some ways, I don't like it because you become a slave to the algorithm. I've been talking to other podcast hosts, and you don't really have a choice. Well, you do. You have a choice of not playing the algorithm, and your show, you can make an amazing show and it can bomb. You and I could have a brilliant 2 hour conversation. If we haven't hit some massive topics in the first 10 minutes, it just bombs.
Yeah.
And so if you really want to juice the algorithm, you've got to hit them in 30 seconds with a big hit. You've got to keep them engaged for the first kind of like minute of, that's why they all do trailers, you know, that first minute of the show, they show you all the big bits. So you go, oh, I want to watch that. And then you've got to like try and keep people on average above 20 minutes. And you've got to bait them in with a title. Now, if you're Joe Rogan, you don't need to do this. You've established, everyone loves you. You do 1 million on Spotify every episode, but most other people have to play this game. And I've even noticed shows I really like are just not performing like they used to because they're getting beat by other people playing the game.
Yeah. This is also part of the scary mechanism for control, right? So we call it freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. I think that was the new. So we had the censorship model where there seemed like there was a moment when everything was, okay, if you step too far out of the line, then we'll just cancel you. But there was a very decisive moment, I think, when it transitioned to freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. And I think it coincided with the release of AI and us building our social credit score. So I think we hit a moment where they said, okay, the cat's out of the bag. We want you talking about everything, but we want you telling your truth so that we can profile you. Now, we won't give you reach. We'll only boost what we want to boost. And I think also there is putting people into the most radical version of themselves.
Yeah.
By continually feeding them like a narrative. So they figure out what your narrative is. And then they keep feeding you into that narrative. And I think it radicalizes you more and more and more into your worldview.
But you say they.
The algorithms.
But so like there's the conspiratorial side, that there's some control over the algorithms to move public perception on issues, or to move public perception, or change the way you think and behave. But there is also the revenue side of algorithms, where everybody who has an algorithm has a company that generates money from advertising or whatever, and they play on the weaknesses of the mind, the inner perversions, the inner perverse curiosity. It's like there's a period. I think most blokes go through a period of time where they're watching people getting their heads cut off or shot or murdered on various social media channels, and then that's all it feeds you is people getting killed, and then you're like, I can't fucking watch this shit anymore. And so I think, is it a conspiracy, or is it just the algorithms understand us as humans?
It can be both. So, there is what is the primary goal? The primary goal is that you're in a doom loop, right? You never leave the device. And so they need to maximize for how do I get you on this device for as long as possible. And the more time you spend on that device, the more they can build your profile. Then it's understanding the data and addictive nature to keep you locked in. But then there's the business model, and the business model is advertising. And so advertisers can pay to change a game. And that could come from anywhere. That could come from either a business agenda. It could come from political. It could come from intelligence. And so you could, they are consistent, but there are certain levels, like during the cancellation culture, I think there was a intelligent, we need to cancel people in order to convert them into assets, ruin their life, sue them, put them in some kind of compromised network, and then try and bring them back as an asset. And I think that's what the cancel culture was for everyone that came back from the cancellation.
That was broad Epstein.
Yeah, I mean, infamously Alex Jones, you can see him like pre and post cancellation. And you can also, you can see that there is a compromised network. And once you get to a certain stage, you are an asset. And if you don't comply with, if they can't weaponize you effectively and utilize you, then they can do something. They can do the cancel operation in order to bring you back in. And then that there is bounded escalation in your narrative, just like allowing people to monetize on X. People learn behaviors, right? They learn the sensationalist headline that's kind of not quite true, but in line with what gets a lot of traffic and a lot of comments and riles people up. You can boost those people and boost their income. And so you're training people into the speech you want them to have. And you just pick up these assets. And if they comply more and more, then you can just build these communities.
What is the hierarchy of the structure that you think makes that happen?
Well, I think media is just about power. It's not like a money business model. Media is captured in the sense that most of them are public companies. So they start at, everyone starts out as like a decentralized group of trying to spread a message or trying to build a business for yourself. It depends which way you are. So if like the founder of a podcast is building it as a business, then immediately you're into okay, I've got this amount of money, now I need to get sponsorship. Sponsorship means that there's a certain message where I can't go down, because it's bad for business. Then you have, the monetization algorithms that's teaching you the behavior and the types of things you should be talking about. And then I think you get to a level of you're bigger than traditional media, the top podcasts.
Did YouTube let us monetize Simon?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, we're allowed to monetize you.
Okay, so there's a narrative that's acceptable there, or there's just a load of money to be made.
Well, we're not big enough.
I think the CPM was way down on that episode.
Yeah, it's really interesting because there is there's a part of me, Simon, who goes, do you know what? Fuck YouTube, fuck Spotify. I'll just build a subscription-only podcast, and whoever wants to pay will pay to do it. There's that Patreon video the guy who founded Patreon did called 1,000 True Fans. Have you ever seen it?
No.
It's brilliant. He said most creative people don't realize you need 1,000 true fans. If you're a guitarist, you can write songs and release a record every, a single every couple of months. Those 1,000 true fans will buy everything you do. They'll buy your t-shirt, whatever. If you've got 1,000 true fans who'll spend £100 a year with you, £100,000, you can be a creative. But a lot of people are thinking wide and broad and they want to play at Wembley Stadium, and actually you need 1,000 true fans. But then there's the flip side. If you make it subscription only, well, you as a guest, I mean, maybe not you, somebody else is going to go, well, I was coming on when you were reaching 500,000 people because it was good for me. Now you're reaching a few thousand subscribers. I don't care. And then there's your whole ego. It's like, well, I want my show to be successful.
Yeah.
There's a big balance to be played.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is how we win, by the way. This is like, there's a lot of doomerism. There's a lot of understanding how the world really works. There's a lot of black pilling at the moment. But there's something about scale that doesn't work. There's something about a big company, a big country, a big, where something, a structure of protectionism and capture just hits a certain point. And I found this with all my investments as well. Every single company I invested in like the Bitcoin space particularly, it started that way. It started with the original ethos of trying to get people decentralized money that no one could control. But then they get in the regulatory capture. So they set up a company, and then there's a board, and then that board needs to apply for a license, and then it needs to maintain a banking relationship, and then it needs venture capital funding, and then it needs, if it succeeds, to be a public company, and then it's just a full-blown subordinate of what I call the financial industrial complex at that stage. Then they load you up with debt. You've got equity and voting rights. Then they have the ability to put a board seat on your company, and those are the captured vehicles. Now, what they don't want, there's like a couple of people I found, or a couple of categories to simplify this down. You've got people that have no real money, are like deep in debt. They're kind of like the product of the system. They're paying their interest, they're paying their rent, they're paying their mortgage, they're paying their credit card, and they're finding their situation getting worse and worse and worse, and they're complaining. Like, they're able to talk about it. They're shouting like as loud as they can, but no one really cares. You could sit here and talk about, oh, we got to do something about Epstein, the victims of Epstein. It does nothing, right? It just carries on. Then there's real power. Let's say, let's get at the corporate level, someone like Elon Musk about to do a $2 trillion IPO for SpaceX. These people are captured within a bounded compromise layers. Like, you don't get access to the capital. We can destroy your share price. You will lose all your advertising. APAC will come at you, or military lobby will come at you, or whatever it may be. Will destroy your business. So there's all those like levers. And most people there, like, it's very rare to get a wild card there. Most people, they're captured by the system, even though there may not be like a massively, blackmail big operation happening there. But they're just preserving their own interests. And their own interests are designed to keep you where you don't talk out against the system. And this is kind of why I got into Bitcoin, because Bitcoin created all these really rich people that came from that ideology. And Wall Street went about capturing them all one by one. And all the companies I invested in, they all got captured. But the ones that ended up with a company with no VC funding, just like Bitcoin on their balance sheet, the ones that got their own Bitcoin in self-custody, and they got rich, and they got influence, and maybe they started podcasts and various other things. That's the category that the system doesn't like, which is rich, powerful, influential, ability to even create a movement with 1,000 true fans that can all pay for themselves and pay without financial guardrails and the ability to be cancelled. And then it ends up, you're kind of just you're working for YouTube at that stage. So you always, there's a spectrum of subordination in everything. And you're trying to get further and further into being sovereign, a sovereign company, a sovereign country, a sovereign individual. But there's always something you're bounded by. But when you are like rich, wealthy, not subordinate to all of those layers, you don't have a mortgage, you're in what I call a sovereign zone, and that sovereign zone is what the system doesn't like. They really don't want those people because you're in a position to actually influence change, and they don't have all the layers of control on you. And so that's rare. You don't find many of those because they're always stuck in a business that drives them in a different direction that makes them comply.
How do we get more of them?
Well, that was, I think, the Bitcoin movement. I think it is about, and this is why I always thought that crypto was a psyop, because it took a long-term economically sound philosophy of own more Bitcoin each month and do that for 10 years. And it replaced it with try and outperform Bitcoin, launch this is your path to wealth, create your own version, or just trade and gamble and leverage and all that stuff. And that psyoped a lot of people. And so you got to get a people with a longer term plan, an understanding of the rules, and then working towards being that sovereign individual. And you kind of got two ways of going about it, I think. You either accept this is the system and I understand the rules, right? I need to invest in AI companies on the stock market, and I know I'm building or I'm investing in. My money is, overtly building the police and surveillance state. And I need to utilize AI to be as productive as possible, because opting out of it just means you're not going to make any difference or make any change. So you either go full into the system, understand the rules of the system, and then become that person. And, because everyone else is just stuck down here, you're not getting any of the upside. You're not getting the shares. You're not getting anything. You don't have a business. You're just a loud voice with no influence. And all of them need to have like a long-term plan, but everything's driving people into this get rich quick. I need to do it quickly. I've only got a few years left. And so how do we drive that? I think in economics, we called it time preference. And then how do you drive that time preference behavior? Keep people on track where they don't become subordinate, and then have the kahunas to actually speak out against the system when it may punish you and make you lose all your wealth that's connected to the system, but keep your wealth that they can't capture. And so you either change the system from within the system by understanding the rules, or you generate sovereign wealth outside the system and become that wealthy person that can actually just build its wealth outside the system, speak against the system.
Well, what's at stake here? Like, somebody hasn't listened to our last two shows.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? What's at stake here right now?
Well, we are in the midst right now of transitioning to a voluntary opt-in just due to the way the game has been set up, an architecture.
Architecture of what?
An architecture of, I'd say, a one world government control grid, where we have no choice but to lean into artificial intelligence. We have no choice but to lean into robotics for like businesses in the real world that are actually building things, because you'll get crushed. And from the individual investor that's allocating their money, no choice but to invest it, because you'll be inflated away into non-existence.
But hold on, isn't that just capitalism? Like, isn't that just what happened with the internet?
What do you mean, what happened?
So when we had the internet revolution, the digital revolution that came with that, companies who didn't adopt it got destroyed. We lost Blockbuster, we lost magazines and newspapers. You had to become part of that or you were wiped out.
Yeah.
Aren't we just doing the same again with AI?
I think so. However, what comes on the other side of AI? And I think this is a different game. I think structurally, artificial intelligence, firstly, it wipes out the ability to monetize in many cases. So everything's moving towards free, which is like a deflationary concept or a disinflationary concept. And quite clearly, the evidence is showing that people are, the tech companies right now are investing in data centers to replace humans. So we are moving towards something that's going to take away jobs, but not in a similar way to the previous disruptions that anyone that's a billionaire invested in AI will tell you right now. That's trying to tell you that we're moving to universal high income, and that we're moving to, they'll give the examples of the internet and the computer and how it created new businesses and new jobs. I don't think that's what's happening in this case.
I've become really bullish on AI over the last couple of weeks at a personal level, because I've been going kind of like deep in Claude. I've been spending like 15 hours a day building stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I used to have an agency here in London where we would build websites and applications. And we at the football club have a number of disparate systems. We have our merch system, and we sell merch in 3 places, and we have no stock management. We sell it online, we sell it at the club and at the coffee shop. We have our financial system, which is Zero. We have players that we manage and their contracts. We have staff that we manage. We have communications. In 9 days, I integrated this all into one intranet. Not only does it work, it looks beautiful, because I created an AI agent with the 15 years experience of designing applications at Apple. I built an architecture of a team. I've got a security agent. And so if I'd had my agency and you'd come to me with that brief, I'd said, yes, about a year. We'd probably get the first module out in 3 to 6 months. Cost you £1 million, and I'd have a team of 12 people working on it. One guy on his own. I can't code for shit. Yet it's teaching me how to set up Vercel, teaching me how to set up GitHub, teaching me how to set up Supabase. I'm running the SQL queries. Yeah, and God knows what it's doing in the background, but the ability to do that in 9 days is incredible. And then I wanted to redesign our website, and we use Squarespace. Problem with Squarespace, you're limited to the templates. And so complex things like how I want to display fixtures and results for the football team is difficult. I designed the website first, and I said, can you create me a CMS? And basically in the last 3 days, I've recreated Squarespace. And when I say that, obviously it's not as good as Squarespace. I've been going 20 years, but it's not far off it, and it's probably better than some other CMSs. And I had this kind of realization. This is my bullish side of AI, where I was like, yes, there's these few companies centralizing the technology. I do have a fear about that. But the technology is decentralizing the power of tech to small businesses. And actually what it's doing is crushing big businesses. There's this software apocalypse they're talking about, the SaaS apocalypse. And I see it, because you can now build custom applications in days that run specifically how your business runs. And so any small business now, understanding Claude, can go and build any application they wanted that they couldn't have access to before because they weren't big enough. And so I'm seeing this kind of like decentralization of technology and the power of technology. And hopefully that will empower smaller businesses. I might be on my own here.
I don't think you are in Europe, but that's exactly how everyone needs to lean in for the next few years, because this is happening.
Yes.
There is, if you want to waste an incredible amount of time, go and burn data centers and fight against this. And unless you can go off the grids and you're genuinely happy in that life, and you've figured out your income, you figured out your assets, and you just want to escape, then fine. But virtually no one's in that position. But for everyone else, you got no, and this is the power of the psyop, as it were. Everybody needs to lean in. There is no way you can fight it. You need to get excited about it. You need to utilize it, and you need to build everything you possibly can. And you need to help everyone make that transition, which is the arbitrage that's happening right now. There's an arbitrage between someone that's leaned in versus someone that hasn't figured out that they need to lean in. But maybe they know that they need to lean in and they just want someone to help them.
Yeah.
And so that is a massive opportunity. Like every single business in the world needs to make that transition.
Yeah, and I think this is empowering though for the small businesses, but I think it's going to be disempowering for some of the big businesses. I think the way, for example, I don't know, Blockbuster got destroyed by Netflix. Blockbuster didn't see it coming, and I think there's like one Blockbuster left or something now. They just refuse to embrace it. I think that's going to happen to a lot of massive software companies because people will not need the software. because you can just write your own version. And it's always a pain with software. You have to shoe your business into their software. And maybe if you've got loads of money, you can get some customization. But really, you're always trying to adapt. And you've got all these disparate applications that do different things. I've just done it myself. I've integrated it all into our business workflow, and it's just going to change the way we work. Like it's blown my mind. We've created one for the podcast. So one of the problems we have with the podcast is the flow from researching a guest to booking the guest to recording it to editing it to publishing it. It is just a bunch of stuff in my head, Connor's head, the Chelsea's head, Kurt's head. In one day, I built an application to manage that. And we have the to-do list of every show broken down by person. It uses that Kanban design, so it just moves things across. And there are steps within there where AI saves us time. We're going to have less mistakes. We're going to be more powerful. We're going to make better shows. I built it in a day. Again, you come to me as when I've got my company and explain that system. I'm like, that's 3 to 4 months. That's probably 100 grand.
Yeah.
It's just so empowering. Mm-hmm. What I can't get my head around is, who are the winners and losers? There's going to be a lot of losers. It's going to be a lot of losers. If you are in a job and your job is you go and sit at a desk and you've got a number of applications and you're interpreting data in one and then moving it into another, your job's going. You're done. You're cooked. And if you're at any kind of consultancy level where there's lots of you and you're not an AI native, you're going to be replaced by the AI native who can manage a group of agents who do. I've seen it now. I get it. Mm-hmm. I mean, even to the point where I created so one of the things I find with Claude that was difficult, it forgets things that you've told it and just goes rogue. So I created like a spine, an MD file of the important things it needs to remember. And then I created skills for all the different skills that would be in a web application business. So I had a front-end developer, back-end developer, designer, project manager, systems architect, security. I sent them all into a meeting yesterday. I was like, right, go into a meeting together. I mean, I'm just saying do that. I don't know what it does. But go into a meeting together, review the system and tell us what's not been done from your perspective, discuss it with the other agents, come back with the plan. And Claude says, we're all off into a meeting now. And I sit there for a few minutes, wait for it. Right, we're out of the meeting. It gave me a full document on everything that needs to be done. I gave that to the project manager to go and deliver. It's Simon, it's mind-blowing, but yeah. I think it's going to be volatile and a lot of people are going to be screwed.
Yeah, so I think you're an example of somebody, like I think we're in a similar position. So I had a business. We were hiring people. At some stage, we decided, do I want to be in a business around this incredibly disruptive time? Or do we just want to invest and deploy capital? That was like a decision we had to make leading up to this. Then we decided, all right, we'll spin out part of our business, and we sold part of our business to Coinbase. Then we decided to keep the assets. And then the next decision was, okay, we need to have a hiring freeze. So we stopped hiring everybody, and we told everyone within our small team at this time, because the big team went somewhere else, but we were in a small team. So we kind of decentralized it down a bit, and part of our business consolidated into a bigger group. And then we were, okay, you're not going to lose your job, whatever happens, right? We had our core people that have been through us for a decade. You're not losing your job, whatever happens, but disrupt yourself.
Yes.
And we had that level of trust where we were like, look, we've got this assets, nothing's changing, we're making this amount of revenue. Just play with this technology and disrupt yourself, and we'll keep you on no matter what. Like, you'll be managing all of your agents and all of your things. And so a small team, we were able to do that, which is quite interesting in itself. And then what happened after that? Coinbase made an announcement saying that we're laying off X% of our team.
17%, wasn't it?
Something like that, like 15% or something like that. We're moving to a flat hierarchy, and we're building for AI first, and we're changing everything we do. And so, you've got a big business that needs to make that shift. Now, that public company, say Coinbase, is going to have a massive boost to productivity. They're going to lay off a bunch of people. There's an interesting one right now because of the business model of AI as well. Like there's something I looked at recently where because of the way that the token model, where the more you're using it, the more you pay in tokens, people calculated that it cost us more on the AI than it cost on the staff. So our cost actually increased.
I mean, that's not for me.
Yeah.
It's certainly not. I mean, I think I hit my first token limit with Claude the other day, and it said it was about 6 p.m, and I've become one of these AI vampires whereby, like, I don't even, like, truthfully, I don't even want to be talking to you now. I want to be sat there coding.
Yeah.
Everything I'm doing, I'm like, because I want to finish my projects, right? I wake up in the middle of the night and it's 2 a.m. I go downstairs, get a water, and just go and see what the jobs my agents have finished and set them off on the next one.
Yeah.
Like, I'm continuous. But anyway, one evening at 6 o'clock, he said, "You've hit your token limit. It resets at 8 a.m." I was like, "What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
What do you mean?" And then I bought some additional tokens, and they wouldn't work straight away. And honestly, I was like, that was actually a warning signal to me, in that these companies can turn you off.
Yes.
And that is something that does worry me. And I do want to know what the decentralized version of this is, that you cannot be turned off. And maybe it can't. And maybe I'm a sucker. And maybe I'm building part of the matrix and we're all fucked.
Yeah. Well, ironically, the answer in that is in China.
Oh, God.
Because China's open sourcing it. And so America right now, we're certainly in an AI bubble in terms of valuations of the AI companies. Like 50% of the S&P is the Magnificent 7 companies. And we're about to add 3 more. So it'd be the Magnificent 10. We'll add SpaceX, OpenAI, and Anthropic.
Okay.
So we got 10 companies that are eating the S&P. And the only companies that are doing well right now have something in the ecosystem of the data center build out that's supporting them.
Didn't Anthropic just announce they just hit profitable EBIT for the first time, rolling profitable EBIT, 100 billion potentially rolling revenue? I mean, that's pretty quick to get to 100 billion revenue.
They are. And if you look at the NVIDIA numbers, we've got revenue, like margins, unbelievable margins right now. I think they also reported that they're doing a share buyback. I think $85 billion share buyback.
Who is?
NVIDIA.
Okay.
So that attracts that attracts all the growth tech investors. Then they also said that we're increasing our dividend from 1 cent to 25 cents.
Wow.
So now they're bringing in all the income investors, all the old Warren Buffett type of Coca-Colas and banking, those type of dividend income investors. So they got the income investors, they got the growth investors. They're propping up the private credit market. The private credit that's done okay is when it was in the AI data centers. That's the backbone. That all goes back into banking. We've got large venture capitalists like SoftBank. They've sold everything. And they've done a highly leveraged trade, $60 billion leveraged trade, connects to the Bank of Japan carry trade in order to purchase OpenAI shares pre-IPO. So we've set up this everything's on AI, definitely very reminiscent of the 2000 .com era. We've set up a game like that financially. And then structurally on the other side of this, we know that China is open sourcing everything.
I want to get into that, but I just want to hit on that point.
Yeah.
I think there's something very different from the bubble. So I got into the internet during the bubble. I was a student. I learned to code HTML on my lap. I was working in a Wetherspoons pub, getting paid £2.70 an hour. I put my name on a freelancers forum. I got a phone call 3 days later from eCountries.com, a .com thing. Phoned me up and they offered me £1,000 a week to go and work for them. I quit uni pretty much that day. I was like, oh, I'm done. But I worked through that period and we had so many issues with speed of the websites and them trying to do more than people were ready for as capable. And it came to, I think the internet came too soon for internet speeds. And it, and there was all that investment and nobody was making any money. Boo.com and pets.com all failed. I think there's a big difference here in that the internet is ready for AI and the revenues are there and they are growing. I mean, I think Anthropic said they're they're making 80% on tokens, 80% profit on tokens.
Yeah.
And so I think there is a difference in these business models can work. There's a huge amount of investment, and there's surely a winner takes most on the super intelligence. But I do actually, I'm not worried about their business models.
Yeah, it's not the business model. It's what the investment banks are doing. It's what Goldman's is doing.
Go on.
So they're valuing these companies on astronomical growth on the current revenue model, and they're selling approximately 5 years forward revenue at this valuation. And so these valuations are, off the scale, and they require a few things.
Yeah, but hold on. Isn't that just the game? I
No.
remember. No, well, wasn't it like Snapchat has never really made any money, but all the banks got rich on the IPO? Isn't that always been the game? Is that there's no money left for retail by the time it IPOs?
Yeah. I mean, well, that was what was moved towards. It used to be a game where you would try and have retail make some money.
Yeah, no, retail. We'd dump on retail.
But now it's like you got venture capital, you got private equity, then you got the private credit, then you got the Gulf sovereign, all the sovereign wealth funds, and then you've got the IPO. So the IPO is like the final game. Then you sell it 5-year revenue forward. I mean, if you're a long-term investor, it's like, the right place to allocate, which is why we ended up giving all our power to BlackRock, because you just end up buying the S&P instead.
Yeah.
And now they've changed the game where if you are valued at $1 trillion plus on day one, you get included in the index. So now,
SpaceX.
So now SpaceX is in, and I'm not sure if Anthropic and OpenAI are in, but there's probably something to learn there as we learn from it. But that puts you right in the index, because the stock market relies upon 3 things now. Money printing. If the money printer stops, the game stops. The passive index funds, which means BlackRock can determine who's in and who's out. The Fed can determine whether we print or not, when we rug pull, when we don't rug pull. And then finally, media, which is, what we were talking about earlier, like this, a narrative that gets all this investment, which right now we are leading up to. China's about to, we're going to lose the AI arms race if we don't get this investment, we don't do this IPO, we don't do it at these valuations.
Print a bunch more cash.
Yeah, print a bunch more cash. And you need something to justify the money printing, whether it's a 7 or 5 trillion, 10 trillion, whatever we're moving to next. You need to justify it. So you need a big narrative. And one of those narratives is, if you look at what's happening on the China side, DeepSeek was the first software company to receive funding from the infrastructure play of AI and technology that China's fund, the big fund. And it's never invested in software, but this is the first time it did, because it was integrated into Huawei's structure, and it can do 90% of 90%, maybe 1 year behind is kind of what people are saying of what's being released in America, but like at 1/10 of the cost.
Why is it able to do that? Is it just making different trade-offs?
Just different trade-offs, just different structures.
What's China up to here? What do you think?
Well, this, if we get into it, this goes into the one world government and what happened with the recent Xi Jinping and Trump meeting. There's a coordinated agenda there, I think, in terms of, we're told that it's China versus the private companies in America. But clearly, those magnificent 7 companies all build their shit in China. So the whole thing of the AI arms race is real, but at a higher level, I think there's a game that's being played. And I think that transitions us to this one world technocratic government agenda.
Are you a conspiracy theorist, Simon?
Well, I follow money, and if the conspiracy theory matches the money, then I go down it.
They keep coming true, man.
Yeah.
Does a one world government stop a world war?
I think it does, actually. Yes.
Yeah.
World War III. I always said this. I think I said it in the previous program. World War III is an absolute joke. It's a joke of a narrative, but it's what the media is pushing, and it's what the algorithm's trying to make you think will happen. Because within one phone call, if it was real, within one phone call, the entire US military industrial complex cannot produce a weapon without China. The entire US military industrial complex needs the supply chain of China, as does the entire US tech sector. So World War III is not possible. So why are we continually being told that we're going to World War III? Well, to me, there has to be a bigger agenda.
Well, I mean, they already have weapon stockpiles. They already have nuclear weapons. They can fire them. You're talking about
I'm
restocking.
taking nuke out of the equation. Like, that's end of world shit.
Yeah, but I mean, that to me is the only World War III. Everything else is proxy wars in little shitty nations that we don't care about, where we're happy to just drop bombs on innocent people.
Yeah. And so, that's how I guess. But when we get back to the AI stuff, so DeepSeek raised at about 45 billion valuation, and we're looking at everything else in the under $1 trillion or up to $2 trillion with SpaceX. The entire economy of US growth last year, if you took out the data center build, was nothing. Like, it was a useless economy. We also know that there is a currency war. That's certainly one of the most interesting things that are happening right now as an alternative to World War III, like an actual physical war, I think. But that's always been every single war. There was always a currency war before the war. Mm-hmm. That's always been the number one tool. We know that we're moving down this whole programmable money, programmable securities, programmable everything. And that's kind of where we are right now in the world, I'd say.
Where do you see us in 5 years? What does the world look like in 5 years? Like, is this something all this change that's happening, is it going to happen fast?
I think it is happening fast, yeah. So I think the future of America is all the growth is coming from the AI and the data centers. That's where it is right now. The S&P, like, tech is eating the S&P. There is a moment when the data centers are built. Then what happens?
We don't need any more.
Yeah. Well, there's not enough energy in the world to power all this AI. So either what we're doing is unsustainable, or there's a new model, and the new model eliminates everything that everyone's investing right now. China's already got it. They've got the whole solar panel, renewable energy, electric vehicles, batteries, rare earth minerals, like that whole supply chain, which is why Tesla needs China to make Teslas. That whole supply chain is there. But what is the stock market, which is now pretty much dependent upon the success of these IPOs that are about to happen. If they're a sell the rumor, buy the rumor, sell the news event, and there was a real structural correction after these IPOs, and it was a rug pull, and what SoftBank is doing, it leads to a dump.
What do you think?
I'm really split between it. This is why I think they're timing the opening of the Strait of Hormuz with the IPOs. So I think Trump wants to make sure that liquidity is there. And so it's kind of on, off, open, closed, open. I reckon they've already signed a memorandum of understanding. We're getting back and forth this weekend as we speak.
Ready for the...
they already signed it in May. Like, I think they've already signed it.
All ready for the midterms.
I don't think midterms matter that much.
I think psychologically they matter.
I think Trump knows that he's fulfilled his task. He's split the world into multipolarity.
He's done his job.
He's made a shit ton of money. He's effectively laid the foundation for killing everything that propped up the dollar. All of the deep state operations, all of the USAID, all of the datas over to Palantir, Department of Government Efficiency, all of the reputation of America with Epstein files, everything that was covert before that propped up the dollar is now overt. And then you had the event that sets the new world order, which is if America can't open the Strait of Hormuz, then you have the Suez Canal moment of the British Empire. And it's obvious that that's what's happening right now. So right now, I think Trump needs a Hollywood movie of how he forced Iran into signing a deal. And I think Iran will agree to that in the negotiations. You get your Hollywood movie. Then we'll have this moment when everyone else in the world realizes Iran did it. Can we do that? Can we now sign with China? Can we now do the Belt and Road Initiative? And can we actually get rid of our IMF debt? Seems like there's a way now. It seems like there's a path. How do we do that? Well, we need to deconstruct all of the things that made sanctions possible. We need to deconstruct the SWIFT system for the rest of the world. We need to take away the layers that propped up the petrodollar, which is OPEC. People see it as...
Who just left OPEC? Didn't someone just leave OPEC?
UAE just left OPEC, and they got an FX swap line. And what that means in simple terms is the way the Eurodollar system works is that if you get access to the Federal Reserve FX swap lines, which is where you deposit your currency and they lend you dollars and the Fed creates those dollars, it's handing over the creation of dollars to an alternative central bank. And so that's an exclusive club. That was for the Bank of Japan, the European Central Bank, the Bank of England, the Bank of Canada, and the Swiss Central Bank. Now, an FX swap line was given to UAE. That means that UAE can now create dollars. And so if they want to, have the guarantee of the Federal Reserve System, but within UAE, and who are UAE? They're the center of circumventing sanctions globally. Iran does all of their trade through UAE, and we're meant to believe they're at war right now. But all of the sanction circumvention happens via UAE, via Hong Kong, via Singapore, and all of the gold to oil routes. And what else did UAE get? Well, so we've got an FX swap line, so it now can have a system that's guaranteed by the Federal Reserve, and that was framed as, UAE's in so much distress, they're about to die, and we bailed them out. They've got $250 billion in reserves and $2 trillion of US assets. And the average American is struggling with the cost of energy because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Their bills are going through the roof, and they're meant to believe that they're bailing out UAE. What else did it get? So then it came out of OPEC. OPEC was the other half of the petrodollar. It was the agreement by the International Monetary Fund, the post-World War II Bretton Woods order, where you would take your dollars that you priced in oil, so you would sell your oil for dollars, and then you would reinvest them into US treasuries. But the bit that most people don't know is that then it sticks within the Federal Reserve System, so they can sanction them or wipe them away. That gives America its control. And then what you have to do with the yield on the treasuries, you have to reinvest it in US companies. And so your defense contract was you have to spend it into the US stock market. Then it comes back with US companies getting contracts, and they build a foreign base. And then they say, we'll protect the petrodollar.
It feels like things are breaking apart, but it actually sounds like they're consolidated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now, you've broken the petrodollar.
Yeah.
The petrodollar no longer has that system. What else did UAE get? It just so happens that the Bank for International Settlements was creating a network of central bank digital currencies called Enbridge. That Enbridge project was transferred over to UAE. And UAE have a network of central bank digital currencies that connect Saudi Arabia, China, Thailand, and UAE, and Hong Kong. Then we got an announcement from Hong Kong just the last few weeks that Hong Kong is now taking on the infrastructure of the gold clearing system for derivative products that used to be in London. And so now Hong Kong is starting to get the ability to issue these gold derivatives that aren't backed by physical gold, i.e. the same scam that happened in the West. And it's integrated into China's, the Shanghai gold market. And so there's another thing that's built up here. Oh, you've got a network of CBDCs that plug into China's CBDC, all clearing via UAE. They've all got their system there. You've got the petrodollar that is now what happened 11 months prior to UAE leaving OPEC. They signed an energy pricing agreement with BRICS. And so now you've got this. And what is the end result of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz? Iran, who's the largest sovereign Bitcoin miner in the world, that mines Bitcoin at the cheapest rate in the world, backed by nuclear energy. We're meant to be negotiating nuclear weapons, when in the end, they're going to have, for the first time, a capitulation on their ability to have a nuclear, civilian nuclear energy program. And then when you remove sanctions, which is what's being negotiated, what happens then? Well, you've got 2 to 4 million barrels of oil for an OPEC member because Iran is in OPEC. Now that's moving all over to BRICS. Who joined BRICS right prior, like a year prior to this? UAE, Iran, and Egypt. Saudi did a holdout and said, we'll be an observer. And then what did we get? We had October the 7th. Then the IMF bribed Egypt and said, we'll cancel your $18 billion debt if you ethnically cleanse the Palestinians. Egypt said no.
That's a big claim.
That's exactly what happened. This is like the plans were all released. The whole ethnic cleansing. The plan was to put all of the Palestinians in the Sinai Desert and then expand the war into Egypt.
Well, so I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
When you say ethnically cleanse,
That ethnically cleanse doesn't mean genocide.
Yeah, no, it also
you take
means
the Palestinians and put them somewhere else.
Yeah,
you move them, expel them,
Yeah.
Nakba, or whatever. So that was what they were meant to do. But then prior to that, what happened? China normalized between Iran and Saudi Arabia. You had all those trade agreements. UAE was doing all the trade flows for all the sanctions circumvention. You had all these gold markets. You had gold that was completely flowing out of the West and into the East. When you look at all these flows, you had Egypt that decided, they took GCC, they took Gulf country money, and they took China Belt and Road Initiative money, and they stopped taking IMF money. And then they didn't accept the ethnic cleansing. And then we had this whole tit for tat between UAE and Iran. We also had a tit for tat between UAE and Saudi Arabia. Good cop, bad cop, good cop, bad cop. And what did they all destroy? They destroyed the infrastructure of the American bases. And they destroyed energy infrastructure, very specifically and very targeted.
So do you see this all like Neo sees the Matrix? Do you just see it all?
I see, yes. I mean, to me, this is an alternative to World War III, which is that world leaders, recognizing that World War III can't happen, they negotiate better outcomes. And who is the world leader in the West? Well, I've already said in previous episodes, that's private corporate interest.
Yes.
That's military industrial complex, financial industrial complex, technical industrial complex. So when you go to a meeting between Xi Jinping and Trump, what happens? You get the executives of all the banks, the FIC, you get the executives of all the technology companies, the TIC, and they sit down for a check-in report with Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party on how they're splitting up the world and how these new energy routes are moving us to this multipolar world while they build out an AI center with a few rug pulls built in. And this is what I'm trying to say. The rug pulls that are built into this, how was the Belt and Road Initiative funded? It was funded by selling US treasuries. So they went from China's position went 1.4 trillion down to 650 billion now. All of that was invested in the countries that built all the alternative routes, all the train routes, the port routes, the shipping routes, all the alternative, was all built out. And so you can see that everything's been split up, and then we get a very interesting sequence of events. Nord Stream pipeline's blown up. That subordinates Europe and Germany. Forces them into LNG contracts. Renewable energy. What's renewable energy? It's all powered by electricity. So Europe, doubles down into its renewable energy. We get Nord Stream pipeline. We get Ukraine war, Russia war. What happens with Venezuela? You could see before Venezuela, the Iran assets were being moved. The Russian assets were being moved. China was building up all of its oil reserves, and it was allowed to happen. We also had the same happen in Syria. Iran allowed it to happen. Russia allowed it to happen. China allowed to have it happen.
Okay, I've got a question. So what's happening with Cuba? What's that part of it?
Well, the Western Hemisphere is McFick and Tick owned.
Yeah.
And so an energy crisis is needed. So you choke off all of its oil supply with Venezuela. You then do a beta test for crimes against humanity and people not being able to go to hospitals, people not being able to travel. If you want energy in Cuba, you have to download an app and it will give you your allocation. You probably have your carbon credit score, and you destroy the currency and you agree with Russia and China. Is this McFick and Tick's part of the world? They'll say, well, I want Ukraine, I want Taiwan. They split the world up. They agree what's going to happen.
China's getting Taiwan.
China's getting Taiwan, which is why they're building the infrastructure for chip independence. So you get an investment in Intel. You get Biden that signed the CHIPS agreement. So you invest $50 billion in chip infrastructure and independence. This is multi-government. You can see it from Trump to Biden to Trump.
They're like, don't take Taiwan yet. Let's build out our fabs.
China's getting close to chip independent, and America's going to be building their chip independence, and then Taiwan's just not that important.
What happened to Thomas Massey? Is that a side gig?
Thomas Massey, so he was taken down by the Israeli lobby.
Yeah, definitely.
There is a faction of power that is still the old neocons, the radical Zionists in Israel, and even factions of the IRGC that create the strategic tension that justifies all the war in the Middle East. That circle, neocons in America, the funding of resistance that justifies war, and Israel always pretending that they're about to be taken out and you need to protect the Jews. So they build an army, they get population growth, and they expand and justify wars, destabilize. That faction is, I would say, the power faction aligned with the military-industrial complex, which is more nationalistic. That's like the boomers that remember the dollar's old day. The financial industrial complex is more global. It's transnational. It's sovereign wealth funds. It's China. It's Goldman Sachs. It's JP Morgan. It's all that transnational capital. So they're global in nature. They're like the globalists, let's call them. And then you've got the technical industrial complex is the one world government. And so you've got what you're seeing here with all of these wars is a McFick and Tick military financial technology. They're taking all of America's assets and they're building them in all of these different centers. And so that's the multipolarity movement away from making the dollar less relevant, but asset stripping as you're taking away the dollar, putting all the value into the stock market, fiscal dominance, rolling over the debt, quantitative easing, the AI narrative you need to manufacture a pump and dump cycle, everything you need there.
Is this just the way the world works? Like, is it like, don't be a baby. This is the way the world works. Suck it up.
This is the way the world has always worked. There was the British Empire was the Dutch East India, the British East India Company, the Bank of England, the government taking on the debt, and the people that needed to buy into a narrative. That's the British Empire. Steal all the assets, steal all the resources, manufacture war until you've taken all the assets, and then hand over to a new empire, which was the American empire.
We just have newer technologies to do it with, but it's exactly the same.
Exactly the same. Before it was ships, now it's artificial intelligence.
Okay, so then what does that mean for the average Joe? You know, just a normal guy who's finding life getting more expensive. Is like, this is just the reality of life. The money, we don't have trickle down, we have trickle up.
Yes.
All that happens is money is going to get extracted from you through purchasing power, and you've got to find a way of, I don't know, a life that works for you.
Yeah.
It's a big club and you're not in it.
Well, okay, so examples of things that have worked. Firstly, you vote with your money. Politics is gone. Like if you're wasting time on politics, I think you're wasting vital energy.
That's literally half my life, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I find it interesting because I only really looked at politics once I'd already made it. Like, and I do think that the politics isn't. I think it's a waste of time. I really do think it's a waste of time for most people. You need to build for yourself, and it starts with you and your family and your community, and that's like where you need to build outwards. And
you've got to understand the game, the system, and build within that.
The things to understand about the system is that capital is to subordinate you. So if you take on debt, it's because you are the product of someone else. Someone else is you are the asset of someone else, and you are the product, right? So when you take it on, you have to have a very clear reason why you're taking it on, and it better make you more money than the interest you're paying, and it better lead to an asset that gets you ahead of the game, or just don't touch it. If you are selling shares in your company, it's subordination to whoever's buying those shares, and it moves as a spectrum until finally you're a public company and you are the system. So these are capital is subordination. Is there a way that you can utilize all the things that you talked about with AI to really do the opposite of what Silicon Valley and the American and British American empire would tell you to do? So they'll tell you that you got to build a ginormous company, become a public company, employ lots and lots of people. It starts with venture capital, then it goes to PE, then it goes to public offering. Can you just build a micro business given the fact that you can utilize all these AI tools? And can you avoid the subscription services to the extent possible by building stuff? Now, you start with the subscriptions, but then maybe you replace them one at a time.
You will have two choices.
Go for it.
The two choices are it's kind of blue pill, red pill, right?
Yeah.
You take the blue pill, you're subordinate to that system. You can have a great life within it if you manage to somehow beat the inflationary trap. Or you become a sovereign, and then you're outside of the system. And you can probably find happiness in both. I mean, there's a lot of people subordinate to a system that don't think about it like you do, that would listen to a podcast like this and go, well, he's just fucking crazy. This is not true. That's not like who I vote for will change my life. And the world will get better. And go to work, and then they earn their wage, they collect their pension, and then die. And they might be perfectly happy with that. And then there's a few of us that look at this and go, this is shit fucking crazy.
Yeah, but it's not working. You can see on the macro that what looks like happiness.
I think this country's depressed.
Exactly. I agree.
I think we have got large-scale national depression.
Yeah.
I think we're having a rise of both left-wing and right-wing populism. And
that's the same in America, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
So even if you've got here's the capitalist system, and then let's say European and UK has kind of been a fallen empire, and we know what it's like. We're a bit more skeptical. The Americans are still holding on to, we rule the world. Look, Trump is kicking ass, stealing all the oil. We're going to win. Like, we got the oil, everyone else is going to die. Like, if you still got a bit of that in you, you're still looking at the statistics across America, and it is an absolute pandemic in terms of how people are.
So in some ways, the anti-capitalist socialists have got a point in that this is an ugly system. It's okay if you want to play it. Some people want to play the game. They're happy to play the game. But it's an ugly system that needs a lot of subordinate people. And I've been like shouting, we need free market capitalism. And it's like, we're never going to get it. So do we need a new term? Do we need sovereign capitalism?
Okay, maybe we do need a new term, but I completely reject that the Ricardian banksters that created the economic psyop, that indoctrinated our education system in order to create a science called economics that took out the most important thing, which is the foundation of money, and built a nation of investment bankers and central bankers and FIC employees that all are preserving the system, had anything useful to tell us in the first place. And that whole capitalism versus communism was a psyop to justify war. And it was funded by the same bankers. People think of like, oh, China and Russia, communism was a creation of the East. No, communism was a creation of the West. Communism was created, communism and capitalism and socialism was a construct and words and labels put on models that are completely disjointed from reality. I know I spent 4 years studying them. And it wasn't until I left there that I understood actually how economics works. And these labels of capitalism, communism are completely designed to create another left and right paradox to make you think that the solution is to keep changing the system. But in the end, it's the money. Like, you started in the right place, the What Bitcoin Did podcast. Yeah. It is the money that determines, and capitalism and communism and socialism are designed to feed the same central banking system. And they came from the same place.
But we can agree that communism is the worst model, the most dysfunctional economic model. Can we not agree that?
I think communism and the version of capitalism built on central banking leads to the same result.
What result is that?
The result is the concentration of power upwards. One happens faster, one happens slower.
Sure, but is one 1984 and one is Brave New World? Like, do we get Brave New World in capital society?
One is ruled by government, the other is ruled by companies, ruled by banks.
Sure, but in the more
and in the banks version, you don't know who's in charge.
But in the capitalist version, we do get the creation of more wealth and prosperity and productivity, and those productivity gains do disseminate down to society, and even the poorest people have got laptops and mobile phones, and like no one really goes hungry in this country. Sure, and it's worth pointing out, and I'm not minimizing it, there are kids whose parents cannot feed them probably the 3 meals they want, but generally speaking, no one in this country is starving to death. It doesn't happen, whereas it would have historically. But in communist societies, we have had people starve to death. We've had tens of millions. Like, can we not recognize that?
Yeah, absolutely. But let's not look at the extremes, because they never are what they say. Like the communist model is never communism, and the capitalist model is never capitalism. Look at the country. So, as a country, you have resources, and you have ways of allocating those resources. And where there is a deficit, you have to go to another country and you have to build a partnership in order to figure out how to solve that. There are models that came from economics that were specifically designed to subordinate and steal resources from other countries. And they called it capitalism, they called it neoliberalism, they called it IMF loans, they called it whatever they want to call it. But it was a mechanism for ensuring that your resources come to us and we get to build product from it. And by building product from it, we get the margin and we get to sell it back to you, but we lend you the money in order to buy it back from us. And then you have starvation, but you send us your food. You know, this was not an accident. That was a deliberate model of ensuring that they could never, the price of goods is going up, but the commodities are effectively giving you less and less margin. So you get poorer and poorer and poorer. If you're just selling your commodities and not manufacturing something. Now, the countries that didn't manufacture, it wasn't because they thought communism was a good idea. Because if you look at China, the communism was funded by the Soviet Union. Where did the Soviet Union come from? That was the Bolsheviks. The Bolsheviks was to take away capitalism from Russia because Russia had the right model, which was a mix of using your resources to ensure, and Singapore's the best model. I've always thought Singapore's the best model in the world. Singapore, when it decolonized, said, before we go, and I told Bekele this when I went to El Salvador as well, before we do this, they made sure that there was a program that all the local Singapore people would end up with their houses and land. The opposite of what they did in Hong Kong. And if you go to Hong Kong, I lived there for years. You go underground, I went under there. There are coffin box houses of the local Cantonese that were shoved underground in tunnels and pushed out to the islands, while all the largest population of billionaires own all the real estate. You would call that capitalism. In Singapore, they said, no, we're going to make sure that you have a program that you end up with your real estate and you end up with your land. And they did that before they grew. And they made sure they pushed everyone into it. Some would call that socialism. They pushed everyone into it. And even in China, 95% of people own their land and real estate. Then they became, in Singapore, they felt like they were shareholders. Imagine if that was done in El Salvador, right? Imagine if, before inviting all the wealthy Bitcoiners in, you made sure that every Salvadorian had a program where they would end up with the benefits of the increase in the property price and land price as El Salvador transforms itself. Instead of now having the wealthy Bitcoiners come over and take over all the land and buy everything, and create the next Hong Kong, you actually implemented a little bit of what's right. And we've always seen this. You can see this in capitalism, right?
Oh, hold on. Isn't that what the guy wanted to do in Honduras? I can't remember his name.
Yes, and what happens to them? They always get assassinated.
Assassinated, and they went to war with El Salvador.
Okay. The story of every single war in the world is when someone tried to do that. They said, "What's Iran's biggest? What's the thing that they've done that was the crime that was unforgivable?" They nationalized their oil and said, "We want to do what Saudi does. We want our oil to mean that you pay no tax, and then you can all create capitalism and create as many companies, and we don't need to tax you." And that's why every country you go through, every single war, it's someone tried to use their resources or tried to distribute their assets in a way where they couldn't be given at complete with no margin to the West. And that's every war. So if you can
we're the
fix
bad
that one-
guys.
I think the people are also victims of the same system.
Sure.
Victims is not the right word. There is a subordination network and it serves the central banking system. And the Dutch created it, the British created it, and we put it in America. And it was designed to produce exactly what we're getting. And it created all the wars and made sure that people were in a constant state of poverty so that we could have their resources by design, deliberately. Now, the people were the product. We became debt slaves. And we either figured out how to use debt in order to own real estate so that we could get on the right side, and you became one of the boomers that actually kind of beat the system, but you worked for the bank, right? So you either become part of the system, and who are the ones right now that are just saying, just print, just QE, just get those stocks up, just I'll let my children have my house. I'll inherit.
Juice it, baby.
Yeah, just please don't break anything.
Yeah,
just don't break anything. It's the people that were co-opted into the system where all their wealth, and I'm just about to retire. I need that pension's got
Juice
like
it.
2 million, 3 million,
just juice it for me,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. And the kids are just saying, "Oh man, just crash it. I just want to buy a house. Just crash it. Like I want to buy it." And they're like, "No, don't worry, you're gonna have it." And then the government says, "Well, I'm gonna tax it, and we're gonna inheritance tax it, and then we're gonna sort a wealth tax to make you sell it." And then we're going to tell BlackRock that they can buy it because they can create a corporate structure where they don't have to pay the tax.
Or we're going to create an exit tax. So you
Yeah.
just have to stay here and suck it up, motherfucker.
Yeah. And build your business based upon, and you look at every restaurant across, they just work for the bank. They just work for the landlord.
Dude, I went out in London recently. Bear in mind, I used to work down here. I had my advertising agency in Covent Garden. And, when you work in advertising and you run the company, you have a lot of meals out. And during that period, we're talking 14, 15 years ago, London was busy. You could not get into Hawksmoor in Covent Garden on the day. Just wouldn't happen, right? Anyway, I had a night out in London the other day. It was a Thursday night. And I went to an Italian restaurant. And it was half full. Now, this is a good Italian restaurant that's used to be probably full on a Tuesday. Half full. Service was crap. The meal was 350 quid for 2 people. We had a bottle of Prosecco. Okay, 350 quid. I was like, that's interesting. Went to Opium for a drink afterwards down in Chinatown. There's these 2 different bars, Opium and the Experimental Cocktail Bar. They're the kind of place where there's just a door and you only know about it if you know about it. And there's a guy at the door and you used to turn up at these and you say, can I come in? They go, have you got a booking? You say, no, you can't get it. Now you just turn up and you get in. 3 floors are over. Go in now. Only 1 floor is open. 8 people were in there. We had 4 cocktails and it was 115 quid for 4 cocktails. I was like, that's expensive. Then went to, where did I go after that? Ronnie Scott's. Ronnie Scott's used to be my favourite place to go. I never used to go and watch jazz shows. I used to go to the upstairs where it was kind of like a bar, but more of a disco, and you'd have random stuff. A guy reading poetry or I don't know, like a random band playing, and it would be packed. There'd be 80, 100 people in there all night. They've refurbed it. They spent 4 million, I think, on a refurb, and they've made it like downstairs, so it's a proper little amphitheatre. It's beautiful what they've done. 15 people are in there. And that evening, I reckon, 350, I spent about 600-700 quid. It's a big night out without being a big night out. Like normally you plan a big night out, a hotel and things. That's a night that would have cost me, back when I used to work here, 300 quid.
Yeah.
So I can't believe the amount of money I've spent.
Yeah.
Everywhere's half full or empty.
Yeah.
Everything's really expensive. There's no rich young, because London was propped up by rich young people.
Yeah.
They're not out. They're not doing things. I was like, London's cooked.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah. And think let's bring it back down to that. So what are the 3 things that the Strait of Hormuz closure did? Well, it created food price inflation off the scale.
Yep.
So that was the second one was energy. And then it stopped the possibility of rate cuts. And so you create an inflationary spiral that then requires rate hikes.
No one can make any money at the moment.
So think about the average person. You got food, interest, and energy.
Yeah.
So you've wiped all them out.
Yes.
And the people at the top, well, yeah, I don't care what you charge me. I'll pay for it. I'll complain about it, but I'll pay for it.
But there's a lack of disposable income is hollowing out the country. This is why I think the country's depressed. A lot of people unemployed. People just, what's the point in working now?
Yeah.
Surely there's an end state where they go, hold on, how subordinate can we create this country?
Yeah.
Or is it just no choice? You don't have a choice. You've got to live. You've got to, basically, you've got to live. So you've got to go to work and you need to, feed yourself and warm your home, whatever. But you're not going to have a holiday and fuck you because all right, go die.
Well, they want you to either be homeless, which means you're useless to them at this stage. You don't have a dress, you can't take on debt, you're no longer useful to us. Or they need your job pays the maximum amount in interest, in energy, and in food. Ideally just interest, and you pay the rest through more debt. Or you give us all your money and we manage it for you.
And angry enough to keep voting.
Yes, and then you need to create the fake enemy. Originally it was the communists, and I'm not saying that communists aren't an enemy. It's a horrible ideology. But it was the same, created by the same people. So you have the communist energy, When that got too tired, you created the terrorists. When the terrorists got too tired, you created the immigrants. And so that's the narrative. It's the radical lefts, it's the far rights, mix them all up, put them in a pot, fund people to lead movements, that use algorithms in order to galvanize them, build their social credit score, and you've got them all looking at the wrong enemy. And really, it is a systemic system of subordination that our governments, even just focusing on the government, you got to go, once you get a layer above government, pretty much everything makes sense. And that was the aha moment for me.
So, right, okay, so Keir Starmer, his worth is gone. We're going to get in Andy Burnham's going to be allowed to come in, who's going to raise capital gains tax to be level with income tax, and he's going to do a wealth tax, and he's just going to extract more money.
Yeah. Or you get the other far right side, which will say, guess what? It's the immigrants. It's the Muslims. We're going to have a white nationalist movement. And then you get a civil war. And then they engineer that. The MI6 will make that happen.
We're so fucked.
Yeah. So then you go, what's the layer up? The layer up is you vote with your money. And that's where the change happens. So what is your job now? Your job is to recognize the system as it is.
What is my job now, right now, Mr. Podcast Man?
It's difficult, right? Because I think this is my analysis, and you can tell me whether I'm wrong. So you started on the Bitcoin side. You figured everything out about Bitcoin. It put you in a position where you can observe this system without being subordinate to it. Then you covered all the scams and psyops and alternatives and got everyone away from the bad behavior. Then we have the Wall Street takeover. You end up having to sponsor some central. I went through the same journey.
Yeah, it's like this is your life.
Yeah. Then you realize, okay, you have to support a bit of that, but hopefully everyone gets the Bitcoin in self-custody in the end. Then you realize this is boring. like how many times can I talk about Bitcoin? I think we figured this shit out now, how it works. And
a little bit of that, but a little bit of like, oh, now I see how the system works. I want to go back and throw some hand grenades into it and try and fix it.
Yeah. And that's that place we talked about in the beginning.
Yeah.
Which is wealth, influence, podcast, traffic, wealth, FU money, and the ability to sit down with people and actually have the conversations that you're not meant to have. And so I think you're on track.
I'm on track.
I think you're on track. But at some point, I feel like we're in a situation where I think the actions that everyone takes for the next 5 years is really going to define them. And I think you're right. The understanding how the system works is really depressing, and it can take you to a really dark place. Yeah. But that dark place has to go to the next level where you're like, right, I understand how it works. I know the rules. I'm not distracted with what they want me to focus on. So how do we help as many people as possible manage this transition? Which is, I think you're saying, Simon, we've done 2 podcasts on the really crazy shit. You're either, people believe you at this stage or they don't. You're either a wacky conspiracy theorist or you figured it out. Or you're somewhere in the middle and everyone's got their own opinion based upon their own backgrounds, their own experiences. This is the best of my thinking. But once you you can break it down to pretty simple rules, which is lean into the whole world. The whole monopoly board is being thrown up by, I believe, an agenda to build a police and surveillance state of programmable money, social credit scores, and artificial intelligence. Right. It is what it is. You're not going to stop it. It is what it is. So what do we do with that? Well, we try to figure out the decentralized version. Maybe that happens. Maybe it doesn't. But in the meantime, we need to make as much money from this AI thing as possible.
Have I talked to you about the golden pill?
No.
Okay. So I arrived in the world of Bitcoin blue pilled and just like ran into a world of people with ideas who'd read books I'd never heard. I never heard of Hayek. I didn't even know what libertarianism was. I didn't know what central banks, like what they did. I just didn't know any of this. I ran in blue-pilled into a wall of red-pilled people to go, you're a fucking idiot. How do you not know this? I was like, I don't know it. I'm just a moron from Bedford who like started a podcast because I bought some Bitcoin. And then I became red-pilled. I was like, I really understand this system. And then before I went red-pilled, I went white-pilled. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do some good. Ran into a wall of bureaucracy and bullshit and lies and reality that I couldn't do anything about. Then I went super black-pilled. I got dark. And I actually lost my motivation. And I've been, ever since Simon, I was like, I could deliver a newspaper. I've worked. And I didn't just have one paper round, I had 3 paper rounds, and I got a job in a shop. And then about 18, I was like, make me the manager. And then I went to uni and I quit, started building websites. And then I started an agency. And like I've done okay, not super successful, but the agency had 40 people. Then I did that and I started a podcast. I'm going to make it the biggest podcast. Like I've never stopped working and putting the hours in. And over the last year, I lost all my motivation. I did. I used to get up at 6 a.m, work all day. I'd be getting up at 7, 8, drop the kid off at school, go to the gym. Probably start work about 10:30, do 5 hours. I can't be bothered. Cook dinner. I was quite happy, really happy with it. And then when this AI thing, I've got my mojo back, and I'm again getting back up at 6. I'm working 14, 15, 16 hours. I can build something. I can see something. And somebody said to me, it's like, you've been through all this. You've done the black pill. You need the golden pill. It's like, what's the golden pill? It's like, that is kind of your hope. That is you. That's you. You've had every pill. You know how it works. You know how the system works. And you have a choice of blue pill, but you don't want to do it. You've understood through the red pill. You've had your depressing black pill moment. You've had your white pill. Now it's like the golden pill is like, this is reality, and I'm going to build my world in it. Yeah. That's it. And I like that idea.
I'm going to use that. I think I'm in the golden pill.
You are in the golden. Like I'm behind you. Like every time I talk to you, I go, me and Connor get in the car and we go and we're like, fuck this. We should do what we want. We should. And then I just get sucked back in a little bit.
Yeah.
Get sucked back in a little bit. But I have got my mojo back with this AI thing. And I want people to know about AI like I want them to know about Bitcoin. I'm like, you should know about Bitcoin and you should be buying Bitcoin and you should be protecting yourself and understanding the system. But also you should be building with AI, because I do think what's going to happen is this, it's like a gold rush, really. I've got an idea for a company. I'm not going to tell you it, but I've got an idea for a company. It doesn't exist. I can build it. If you'd asked me to do this like 5 years ago, we're like, well, I need to go to Andreessen Horowitz. I need to ask for $10 million and give away 30% of my business and then find a tech director. And, in 3 months we'll have a MVP and, go on that journey. I can build this entire product on my own in a week.
This is the golden pill.
Yeah.
And so the golden pill is, who's important to me? Who do I want to spend my time with? Like, we were shamed. The Silicon Valley culture shamed people for building out a family business. It was, no, you need to take the funding. You need to take Silicon Valley. You need to go down this path, and you can have 5% of $1 billion the or you can have 100% of a company that goes bust, right? That was like the whole thing.
But you'll get your Ferrari and your hot chicks. And
the people that I meet right now is the people that are in that. Okay, I've got thank God I didn't get there. Thank God I didn't hire 7,000 people. Like, thank God I haven't got that massive infrastructure and I'm trying to deal with HR and figuring out how to change this. And so that's it. There is a global agenda to take us to the most centralized version of control grid that the world that will ever see. And even if it happens, which I believe it will, even if it happens, it doesn't matter if you're sovereign. And so let's get back to what's the root of being sovereign. Well, it's actually a small business with a family, and you're supporting the people that are most important to you. And I get to say, I can go to my brother-in-law and say, work for us, disrupt yourself with AI, and we'll carry on. I'm not going to let you go. You'll have an income for life.
It's like we spend that all of our life running towards this imaginary goal, and some of us hit it, right?
Yeah.
And you hit it, and you go, "Oh, nothing changed."
Yeah.
And I kind of see. Look, I am working my balls off again, but I kind of see happiness as slowing down time, and you slow down time when you stop chasing things.
But I never stopped the working my ass off. I just changed what I was working on.
Yeah.
So there was a moment when I was like, okay, I've done the career thing, I've done the business thing, I've done the investing thing, but then I just started working my ass off on content with no real purpose other than I just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. I definitely can't be bothered to do that. But if you want to do it, let's do it.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I am right now. And then, yeah, to have the ability of all the things that you said, to actually be able to do this with, like, on your own with all these services, using AI for all of the things. And even when I was even when I was trying to figure out how the world worked, like I was just deep into studying every war and figuring out what happened there and what was the real story. But the working never stopped. And this is kind of where you enter into an overarching philosophy. And I found my overarching philosophy, which helped me, which is that life, you don't fix the world. Like we always enter into, right, we're going to fix everything. We're going to get to this utopia, right? And suddenly we're going to enter into this golden age or whatever. I don't think that's what life is. I think that life is, and I always call it a test. And the test is, I'm going to throw you some of the most evil shit and the most amazing shit. And you're either going to lean into it and become more evil or more good. And you have to define what this good and evil thing is. And you know in your soul, in your soul, what that is. Because when you do bad shit, you know it internally that you weren't meant to do that. I can talk about many, many moments when I was doing things that I knew internally that wasn't the right thing to do. But I managed to create a narrative in my head that that's the right thing to do in order to allow me to do it. So
you still do it at all?
I think I've codified what I think good and evil is, and I know what activities I shouldn't do and what should do, and I know that I do activities that I shouldn't do that I internally struggle with, that I haven't been able to resolve in myself.
Because there is a certain, yes, it's a test,
Yeah,
but there's a privilege of money that allows you to stop, breathe, and actually make those decisions. You can see how, the endless bad decisions people make on that philosophical scale. Because, I mean, what would be a great example? I don't know. Somebody who works at a newspaper writes a shitty headline about someone's personal life because they want to get up that career ladder, and so they do that article. They write that headline. Or even us. I'm gonna. What is the title for this show that gets the most people in to watch it?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the right title, or is it is it a dishonest title? The one that comes to my mind is "This is how the world works." That's quite an honest title. It's just saying this is the way the world works. If we put out 3 titles with test, "This is how the world works," or "You're fucked and going to be poor," and "You're fucked is going to be poor" is going to work better. Do I leave that on? Even though it depresses people, gives them no hope, sends them in with the wrong mindset. Like, these are the little choices.
Yeah, they're definitely. And sometimes you're conflicted because there's not a good answer, right? You're like, well, if I give it this title, then I'm only going to help this number of people. If I give it that title, I'm going to help a lot more people.
That's what AI said. He said, advertise a juicy cheeseburger and then deliver a fillet steak. Said, like, that's the game you got to play. But there's loads of those decisions that happen every single day, and some of them I think you make them in autopilot, but the world incentivizes a lot of bad decisions sometimes.
The place that I've ended up in is that I want to be as truthful as possible, even if it's against my own self-interest.
That's a very cool place to be.
And sometimes you know how you can massage your analysis to meet your worldview?
Sure.
I'll give you an example. Like my analysis on the Iran war, which I've just obsessed over for whatever reason. Because I 3 years ago, I said I want to figure out why all these wars happened. And that became my obsession for 3 years. And then I wanted to test it in real time with the Iran war and figure out how much I could like predict what might happen based
Prove the
upon my
thesis.
understanding. Yeah. What my analysis on the Iran war pisses off everybody. It pisses off the people that are fans of Iran, the people that think that the resistance is the moral position. It pisses off. Sometimes I can't tell you how much I despise everything about Israel. That's what radicalized me. I watched every day of the genocide.
Israel or the Israeli government?
The Israeli government and the indoctrination of the people, that I believe this is where you get one of those unpopular narratives, because really they radicalized the Jews that came to Israel, and they are victims of their own indoctrination that was used in order to recruit them to the IDF. And what happened to Jewish people in their history. That's really unpopular if you talk about things like that, because then someone wants to immediately say, oh, you're a Zionist shill. I'm like, there's nothing you could say that's more offensive to me than that. You know what I mean? Because I watched this in 4K every day. But then sometimes it's true. That could be true. Like, for example, what happened to Iran by the British and American Empire is evil. But what Iran has also done in reaction to that has caused a lot of problems in the region.
But people are always forced to pick a side. It's a bit like this Gad Saad episode with Rogan. It's a car crash, right?
Yeah.
And I like Gad Saad. I want to read the book, Suicidal Empathy. It's an interesting concept. I like Rogan. I watched a lot of his shows, but I watched this one and it was horrible. It was a car crash of rationalization and gaslighting from Gad Saad, because he has to pick a side. Now, does he have to pick a side because he's been indoctrinated? I mean, he's not Israeli, he's Lebanese, right? I think he's Lebanese. Or does he have to pick a side because he's worried about being cancelled? Criticism, like I've got tweets going back 5-6 years saying free Gaza. You know, not popular in some areas. But I was just always of the view, like, both sides just stop killing each other. Maybe I'm very naive. And look, they're just outside of the terrorists and the IDF, there are a bunch of people who are just getting killed. Just, can we stop killing each other, please? And I always felt like what's happened to the Palestinians was kind of gross. They were living in a prison state. And I watched an excellent documentary on how terrible life is, and I've seen the pictures before and after the war. Like, it's just, so I'd put out Free Gaza, and I would be told, you're anti-Semitic, this and that, and you shouldn't say this, and it's like, really? I can't just say these people should be free? Yeah. And so, I wonder if people just, I wonder if Gad Saad, does he feel trapped? Does he believe it? I don't know. It's just, the Overton window certainly shifted.
See, that's the thing. So many things can be true, right? So I tried to say what happened to Iran is evil. What Iran did in certain reactions is evil.
Right, you didn't pick a side.
Is it true? And again, this is how I analyze in my mind right now. Is it true that once the genocide happened, that there could be an agenda to weaponize the genocide in order to make Israel look even worse than it may be? And
I think you can pick a starting point in history and create whatever narrative you want from that point, or go back one step and say, did this happen for this? Or go back one step, oh, but did this happen for that? Like, I think you can create a narrative for everything. And it's just, I sometimes just like, can we just stop fucking doing this?
Yeah.
Like, I'm so over it.
Exactly.
You know, can we just stop killing people?
But even here's what I've found. I've always found that I come up with a realization that I didn't, and I try and share that. And historically, when I'm right, I'm not always right. That's not what I'm saying. But when I am right, it's normally 2 years ahead, and then it becomes obvious in 2 years. And then it becomes popular to say the thing that was so unpopular back then. So I talked out about, that I believed that there was no, I won't say the word, but October the 7th didn't have anything that was reported. And gave all the evidence, and that was right at the beginning. That's quite a popular narrative now. So 2 years later, you can say that, and it's pretty popular. Today, I like to say that, so most people have now come, okay, Israel rules the world. They're the ultimate. Netanyahu owns everything. And this whole war is for him. That's not true. Israel and Netanyahu have their own deep state, and they have their own lobbies. And when you really follow the money, everything Israel does brings money back to the US stock market, when you really follow it. Now, that's a very unpopular message right now, because now the podcasters are popularized. America, if it were not for Israel and Zionists, we're a very ethical country, and we were forced into this. And we had to be blackmailed by Jeffrey Epstein. And it's very unpopular now to actually show the real flow of money and how it comes back and how this is propping up empire, because then they're like, oh, you're apologizing for the Zionists. You think that you're forgiving Israel for what they did. No. What Israel did involves doctrination. It was fundamentally evil, but whose interests were they serving? So I've hit a place where I don't give a damn what anyone says anymore. Every opinion, you'll tell me that, and all I want to do is just be consistent and tell people, this is what I think's happening. This is what I think will happen. And by the way, this is what I got wrong, and this is why I thought I got it wrong. And this is what I got right. And love it or hate it, I am who I am, and I don't give a shit anymore.
Well, look, it's something's working. You're becoming quite popular. You're getting invited on bigger and bigger shows. The shows you do have lots of downloads. The one we first did is nearly at 1 million. That's a massive show. It's like top 5 show for us of all time. I've seen you getting invited on other shows. You've become that banker. Oh yeah, we get Simon on. We're going to get, but you're becoming popular because you're saying something different as well, and you're doing it from a position of honesty. Simon, man, I love talking to you. Yeah, we do this every week with you. Going to get in the car now with Connor and you'll have to fill him in. How much of it did you hear, Con? Do you have any questions for Simon? Do you want to end on something big?
If you were to speak to the young, looking at the big world and the adulthood that they are about to step into, how do they navigate this world without becoming consumed by it?
Yeah, I'd say I think I'm at the stage right now where I think that university or college is an absolute waste of time and the worst decision you could ever make.
Hallelujah.
I think that spending 3 years like being indoctrinated to get a job is a really bad idea. So I think you just need to recognize that there's probably only 2 things that you need to know in this economy. One is that you need to own assets that beat the game. So whatever you've got left over can't be held in cash. It needs to be held in assets. And the other is the entire chessboard has been flipped up for AI and robotics. And so you're building shit with your hands for that infrastructure, or you're building software, you're leaning in, you're helping businesses. Every single business in the world right now needs a young kid that can help them figure out how to transition to AI. So just bring in as much money as you can, learn on the move. Like this is lean into it, bring in as much money and then save it in an asset that beats the game. And probably none of us know what the world looks like in 5 years. And if you're from a family where the boomer made all the wealth, just hopefully you're in a country and they've got some tax efficiency and structuring where you'll end up with it. So probably everything will be okay anyway.
I'm not a boomer.
And we're not in a tax haven.
No.
to get your dad to start structuring what happens after he dies, before he dies.
I think we did the maths the other day. I'm left with 25%.
Yeah, once you stake off inheritance and cap gains and everything, it's Pretty brutal.
No, here's one more piece of advice. Build your wealth in a different country to the country you live in. So even if most people can't afford to set up Cayman Island structures and all this stuff, but even if it's just learn how to build yourself as a company, and in a company you have to spend less than you earn and you have to invest the difference and put it to work. But I do recommend everyone starts looking at even if your business is just AI consulting, just structure it as a business. Just because you're in the UK, don't set it up as a UK company. Set it up as a UAE company or Singapore, whatever you can afford at your stage, and start running yourself as a business.
Simon, man, we can do this as often as you like. I will have you here whenever you want. We should probably hang out and get dinner sometime as well.
Yeah, let's do it. Thanks for having me.
Dude, keep crushing, keep being successful, keep spreading the message. Me and Connor have a long chat on the way home and see where we end up. Take the golden pill. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll see you all soon.
Yeah, take the golden pill.